Welcome back. Here, I use the weight of my own chest as the reason to fight hardest for meaning. Pain is exhausting and claims the life of the most unfortunate, but for the living, even if you lose everything, when all you can do is sift the dark, that is where the most profound answers to humanity, reasons to be, and self-agency lie. Having felt an epic range of events and feelings, I have peak human potential envisioning the most fulfilling and empathetic victory. My time trapped alone forced introspection and self-awareness to treat others with the most thought and care. Sifting my past, I left off at an awful place. I was 17. I had shut myself in harder than ever, and high school online was a dropout failure with no sense of belonging. Staying reminded me of pain school caused before. My hope was my dream of artistry. I bought a printer in hopes of selling art copies. Years went by, as I spent most of that time gaming or studying the world some more. Reality couldn't be more cynical as I learned more about the relation between labor, modern slaves, and narcissism of the first world it was subject to. I felt sick, knowing the conceited exist because the bottom half of the world provide for them. I was also knee-deep in looking at how many shut-ins like me existed, whether they worked or not. It's self-preservation. In every case, society had shelled their sense of worth due to a singling out event prior to their retreat. These were my kin, and seeing their plight or end made me swear I'd empower them someday. By 21, I felt forgotten and pathetic entirely, a true loser. This was adulthood. I was supposed to slave for the peer-pressured image of success instead of hiding. So prevalent in America, no matter how poor your family is, you're judged as middle class, expected to move out hitting adulthood. How much grief and self-hate has that status symbol caused? Where's the status for making sound financial decisions until you decide to build a life with someone? I hadn't given up artwork, but what went unremarked was mold under my carpet. I always smelled it, but paid no mind. I felt the sharpest stabs in my gut one day. I wasn't a complete sedentary person. I biked, shadowboxed, stretched. This pain didn't add up. It was so bad I couldn't walk until it calmed. I called a hospital and was told to visit due to the severity. I didn't go. Believing I could ride out anything had become my insecure self-esteem. Could the pain have been the lack of belonging or romance festering in my mind? If so, not entirely. I still had online friends I felt were family, and I had always been self-conscious about not falling into despair, always having plans, disciplines, and reflection. The pain became chronic, until I thought it smart one day to punch myself in the gut. The pain then went from sharp glass to an intense prickling that spread into my ribs before calm. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next day, no sleep. This was bizarre and frightening. I was now getting real tired, and wasn't consumed by anxiety beside wondering why I wasn't sleeping. Just too tired to stress about anything. I cried to Mom about it. We went for a walk. Didn't help. I then hiked up a mountain to complete exhaustion. To no avail. Any loud noise caused sharp cranial pain. From here, closing my eyes caused vertigo, numbness, and prickling cranial pain, no matter how much I starved for rest. It felt identical to times I held my breath underwater too long. Shards of enamel then fell cleanly off my teeth. I began fearing for my life. I cleared my mind flat, longing for rest more than anything. My eyes were now forced open to avoid immeasurable dizziness and pain. Waiting for the bus, I was dozing off when the most painful shot of adrenaline jolted me upright. It was like getting punched in the face. I physically felt something ooze in my head at that moment. A week at a time of wakeful suspense had passed when I was finally feeling death's door. This was the end of the second or third week. My heart was beating strained through my chest, ready to stop. I was begging God, as an atheist, not to let me die. That night, I felt something akin to standing too quickly, just far worse. It was sudden, and I was on the floor ready to faint. I couldn't breathe, not even with slow, deep breaths for hours. My hands, feet, and cranium were prickling mad. Drinking loads of water helped some, but I reluctantly called my dad to drive me to the hospital. The cranial pain was now without needing to shut my eyes, and every second was eternity. He showed up, treating it like an insulting joke. But so did almost anyone. That hit deep, seeing what people really thought once I was in trouble. When I got to the ER, the nurse behaved like I murdered someone for having taken up their time before any examination. I'll never forget her livid face. After examining my eyes and a blood test, nothing was found, and I was slapped with a panic attack pamphlet, hospital bill, and told to get some sleep. Taking a pill called Adavine, it knocked me out after the final week of consciousness. I truly felt it was my last night. It was the most surreal way to imprint that anyone thinking it was all just in my head was a thorough asshole. I felt reborn into the totality of an indifferent world. This was a one-time event, and I'd go on to experience worse stress and doubt in the future without such symptoms. I never took Adavine again other than that night at the hospital. To this day in the present, I never found someone who tortured their sleep this badly solely because of mental health. What was so particular about the single month I did this? When I woke, I couldn't stand on my right leg. If I did, it sent sharp pressure into my cranium. Something sharp was pressing inside my right scalp as if ready to burst. Was it an abscess? I didn't care about my life anymore and applied to work that day. I slept in the living room to avoid mold smells, which helped. We moved out soon, and the apartment was demolished for, guess what, mold. For the rest of the year, my cranium pricked sharply, and so did my finger joints at work. I lasted no more than a month each job. I was naturally yelled at for my performance. My face swelled hives, and I'd pick at it till it bled, over and over. The scar it left is why I wear a bandage. It's a badge of shameful self-harm. I cut my diet to veggies and small amounts of dairy or bread. Anything else caused vertigo, especially sugar or bananas. Some days at work, I'd feel so close to fainting again that I'd break down crying. I had to keep going. I thought up a plan to leave the country soon as I had enough cash to get examined again, and to escape the apathy of this place. I met a homeless coworker on the way home. He felt like the first empathetic person in ages, the way he spoke. When he described his duties at the shelter interfering with finding work, I was upset enough to remember duty to people like him. So long as I knew someone like me exists, I felt I had to keep going for both our sake. That is what kept my dream alive, beside relatable figures from history. If I just overcame all of this, it would be all the more glory to be had. Not just for me, but my tribe. All I had to do was keep planning and look up to my idols. The fiction people love. They were inspired by those who made history. This was my chance to be one. Finally, I quit and flew to relatives in Borneo. Getting a CT scan for the cost of almost nothing, all it found was mild sinusitis. That made sense since I was much better now from my diet. That was all I asked for, in contrast to America's crap hospital. I tried staying in Borneo to save my art hopes once again. That didn't work, as I felt stressed out learning language, let alone isolated. Exploring the island was dreamy, the people were kind. The way girls smiled at me, it gave me reason to be charmed. I stopped at an incense shop when the most glowing beauty I imagined approached me to assist, stopping just short of my nose. When I responded with what little language I knew, with the purest smile she floored me with an enthusiastic compliment in English. She had no accent, standing at flustering distance. Her eyes weren't straight, but was prettier than anyone I've seen. It inspired my need to care for someone. I really wanted to show her no one was prettier. Sadly, I internalized such low self-opinion from my experiences that I said goodbye and left the store, feeling I wasn't good for her. I told myself I wasn't staying in the country anyways. I came to regret so hard that I'd cry nightly. Could that have been the most gentle beauty I'd ever meet, just to squander? I was back in America now, but it wasn't over. I saved money again and flew back just to find her. After searching the wrong towns, I was told the right shop. She wasn't there, and I was shooed out for asking. I again left that country, betraying my own heart. Never again would I doubt myself, I said. Returning to Seattle, I took on landscaping work, but still, I felt so alone having missed all of high school. Next chapter, I'll cover my attempt to reintegrate toward college. Thanks for listening, and I wish you well.